In Illustrator, once you already have artwork created, you can of course edit or make adjustments to that artwork. Now in Illustrator, there are 5 types of transformations that you can apply. Those are moving, scaling, rotating, sharing, or also sometimes called skewing, and reflecting, or also sometimes called mirroring. In this movie specifically, we're going to cover moving and copying objects. We've already had much experience in actually moving objects around our screen. After all you need to do is click and drag to select some artwork and then simply move it around your screen. However, I'm going to press undo here. Many times you need to make very precise movements. Well, let's take a look at how you can do that inside of Illustrator. I'm going to click on this object right here. It's actually a group of many objects inside of it, and I want to move it a precise amount. Maybe I want to move it exactly 1 inch. Well, if I double click on the selection tool inside of the Tools panel, the Move dialog appears. Here, I can specify precise movements. For example, I might want to move it horizontally 1 inch. I'll hit the Tab key, and vertically I want to move it to 0, so I'm going to leave that set to 0. Notice I have a preview option here, so I can see exactly what that looks like. If I click OK right now, I will have performed that move, or I can also click on the Copy button, and when I do so, my original stays, but a copy of my piece of artwork actually gets moved according to the values that I've specified. So if I click on Copy now, I now have 2 pieces of artwork. Of course, I'm going to press Delete here. We know that if I click on an object, I can hold down the Option key, and then while I drag it, that also creates a copy of the object as well. I'm going to press Undo for a moment here, because there is another way to make objects move in a very precise manner. It's something that we call a nudge. When I click on any object inside of Illustrator, I can use the arrows on my keyboard to move it around in very small increments. But in reality, what size are those increments? In other words, how much is my object moving when I hit those arrow keys? Well, the answer is inside of the Preferences panel. I'm going to press Command K or Control K on Windows to bring up my Preferences dialog box. And you'll see that Illustrator automatically highlights a value here called Keyboard Increment. It's currently set to 1 point. That's the default inside of Illustrator. So each time that I tap the arrow keys on the keyboard, any selected artwork moves 1 point at a time. However, I can change this value at any time. For example, if I type in 72 points, which is 1 inch, and then I click OK, each time that I tap the arrow keys on my keyboard, my object moves 1 inch at a time. So you can see that I can very precisely move artwork as I need to inside of Illustrator. I just want to show you one other interesting tip that applies when working with moving objects and the Move dialog box. I'm just going to go back to my Preferences dialog box here, again Command K. I'm going to change my keyboard increment back to 1 point and then click OK. And I just want to show you one other interesting tip in regards to moving artwork inside of Illustrator. We already know that when I double click on the selection tool, it brings up the Move dialog box. Well, if I select any artwork inside of Illustrator, and then I go ahead and I actually move it, when I double click on the selection tool, the values that I see here inside of the Move dialog box represent the last move that I made. In other words, if I move this to the side here, my flower was around over here before and I dragged it down this way. Exactly how much did I move it and what angle? Illustrator tells me I dragged that flower exactly this distance and at this angle. So even though I was able to make that quick movement on the screen and I wasn't really paying attention to how much that piece of artwork traveled, I can always go back to the Move dialog box to see precisely how much it moved if I need to.